Hello everyone, welcome back to another Top 10 Commander video. I feel like I've done a lot of these before, but it's always nice to go back and sort of redux previous series. And I've done this specific Top 10 at least twice before, but I'm going to do the Top 10 best white cards in the Commander format. My plan is to go color by color and then 2-color combination and then all the 3-color combinations and try to make as many of these top 10s as I possibly can. White, however, I think it's just so easy to do because we've been given some significant improvements for Commander. And we have the obvious ones like Swords to Plowshares that you know are going to be on the list, but it's not quite the front runner this time around, which is pretty interesting. So number 10 is Elise Norn Grand Cenobite, probably the most flexible and most powerful white commander card. If we're just talking about good shutdown cards in white, giving all of your opponent's creatures -2/-2 is a pretty good way of stopping a lot of token strategies. 2/2 zombies, 1/1 white soldiers, a lot of tokens just are not allowed to exist under Elise Norn. She also gives your creatures +2/+2. So she's really just a very good card whether you want to make her a commander. I think she happens to be a very good mono white commander option. I think you're okay either way. I think she really is that good. Number 9 is a new card, Akromas Will. This card was ridiculous when I first read it. The condition of choosing both modes if you have a commander is just stupid because it's pretty much guaranteed. You're likely going to play it when you do have a commander, so you get all those wonderful keywords. Some are more offensive, some are more defensive. It is similar to another card on this list, which we're going to get to here in a second. We have so many ways of synergizing with good keywords. We have so many things that just reward you for having as many keywords as possible. And even if you don't have any kind of crazy combos, it's still just an insane amount of keywords to give all of your creatures until end of turn. And then number 8 is Flawless Maneuver. Only makes your creatures indestructible until end of turn. However, we do have another commander condition. If you have your commander out there, it's free. So for free, all of your creatures can be indestructible until end of turn. Something about free spells is that they tend to be pretty powerful. You can take advantage of them in more competitive decks for that reason. It's just ridiculous mid to late game. You can get around board wipes pretty easily. It turns something that would normally be symmetrical and just makes it one-sided in your favor. Number 7 is Land Tax. Land Tax is a funny card. I'm just going to come out and say it right now. It's pretty much just a mono white staple. It's not something I think you need in anything more than just mono white, but I will just say it is probably the best card that you can play in mono white. That's why it's on the list. It's just the only card that does as much as it does for only 1 white mana. It sits on the field, and if you're in white, chances are you're going to be trailing a little bit. The green decks are going to get more lands than you, so you're going to get 3 planes. That's why it's really important for card advantage. If you don't have to worry about your lands, you're not going to be desperate to spend all your resources just to get those lands. So for 1 white mana, this enchantment is, and has been for a long time, the best white enchantment in my opinion. Number 6 is Heliads Intervention. An X-cost removal spell that pretty much gives you the ability to hit multiple targets, but you don't have to hit everything, means that you can have more of a one-sided effect where you're just getting rid of all of the artifacts and enchantments you don't like. But also, if you're in danger of losing the game, you can just dump all your mana into X and then gain twice that life. But now we get removal combined with something that's actually going to help us out late game. And then number 5 is Mengara the Diplomat, another new card. 2020 hasn't been good for a lot of things, but for white and commander, holy cow. You're just getting staple after staple after staple, and Mengara's no different. It's no secret that if there is one thing that white doesn't do well, it's drawing cards. You do have things like Land Tax, you do have things like Tithe, but what it really needs is more card draw, and we got that in the form of Mengara, a 4-mana creature who is going to sit on the field. Legendary, so he can be your commander. And of course, card draw would never be as simple as just paying an amount of mana to get that card draw. You have to wait for your opponents to play too many spells or attack you with too many creatures. If either of those things happen, you will draw a card. So it's not explosive, but it's going to do enough if left alone to kind of even the playing field. Again, if you're playing mono white, this is the kind of card that you absolutely have to have now. I think it is an above average source of card draw. In the same kind of way that Rhystic Study can draw you a bunch of cards if your opponents aren't careful, Mengara, while it's nowhere near that, is going to be white's own Rhystic Study kind of creature. And then number 4, we have Enlightened Tutor. Artifacts, enchantments, whatever you need, you can get it with Enlightened Tutor for 1 white mana and put it on the top of your library. Now there's no doubt about it, whatever white can do, some other color can probably do better, with maybe the exception of removal. So obviously not going to hold up against black tutors, rarely anything ever does anyway. But like most of the other good tutors, it's cheap, it's efficient, and you have 2 different permanent types that you can choose from, so you will hopefully be able to get some kind of combo piece. Maybe it's an Aetherflux Reservoir, or if you're in enchantment deck, you can get whatever you need for that strategy. Tutors are valuable for Commander because you are playing a relatively inconsistent deck. 100 card singleton, things like these just make it a little bit easier to play. And number 3, we have Swords to Plowshares. Always going to be a playable card in white, I feel. Doesn't seem like there's any situation where you wouldn't be playing Swords to Plowshares. Now the same can't be said for Path to Exile. I feel like there are fewer situations in where I would feel comfortable giving an opponent a land, especially when you have so much landfall stuff now. I would rather give my opponent a ton of life and get rid of their best creature than give them an extra mana to use. Which brings us to number 2, which is Smothering Tithe. It's been almost 2 years since this card came out, and it's in pretty much any deck that can play white now. It is essentially the white Rhystic Study. It's a lot more like Rhystic Study than Mengara. It's a lot more effective, I think, in just getting you that resource, which getting those treasure tokens means that you have more mana. Now again, white definitely needs more card draw, but Smothering Tithe is just one of the strongest cards in white now. And it's just ridiculous. You can pair this up with Wheels, you can pair this up with Windfalls. You make your opponents discard their hands and then draw a new set. When they draw each one of those cards, they have to pay 2 mana or let you have a treasure. Spoiler alert, most of the time they're not going to want to do that. You will have a ton of treasure tokens. This is just a deadly combo. Just a crazy powerful card, and it's just one of the reasons why white is more viable now in Commander. I think if you want to go for mono white, there's no reason why you wouldn't want to now. There's just so much good stuff now. Which brings us to the honorable mentions. Before we get to number 1, there's just a few cards I want to bring up. We of course have Path to Exile. It's a good card. In a lot of the same decks that you're going to play Swords, you're probably going to at least consider this, but there's no doubt that between the two, this is the first to go. We also have Ghostly Prison, maybe not quite as powerful as some of the other cards on this list, but this and Propaganda are going to be massive headaches for a lot of people going up against a Pillow Fort deck. And then we have Austere Command. This is still a fantastic board wipe, and it's one of my favorites in white. It's incredibly versatile in what you can destroy. However, there's just more to do now. It just seems like what we have right now kind of overshadowed it. And I think Heliads Intervention, just giving you that extra life gain if you need it, and being able to hit specific targets, instant speed, that's just insanely powerful. So number 1 here is Teferi's Protection. Surprise, surprise, it's another pretty busted card. But this is really what you have in white to point to and say, take me seriously. Because once you play a Teferi's Protection, you can't be touched. You play it at the right time and you've pretty much won the game. It's the ultimate defensive card, and it's pretty darn flexible. You can throw it into just about any deck that's playing white. It doesn't even have to fit into your strategy. It's just a really good card that you could play at any point in the game for any reason. I'm usually one to favor synergy in the decks that I play. This is like one of those exceptions where I can just throw it into a deck regardless of what else I'm doing, and it's still going to be one of, if not the best card in the deck. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think about this list. What do you think are the best mono white cards in the Commander format? Void here, signing off. See you all next time.